participants. On behalf of APJ Satya University, I, Neha Thakur, Assistant Professor, School of Management Sciences, feel privileged to welcome you all to the International Symposium on Media and Indian Foreign Policy. Let me begin by briefly sharing the essence of this summit. Well, in our interconnected world, the boundaries between media, diplomacy, and foreign policy are rapidly diminishing. Media today is not just a witness to international developments, it is a powerful force that shapes public opinion, influences diplomatic conversations, and crafts national narratives on the global stage. For India, with its growing role in global affairs, this dynamic is both strategic and indispensable. The purpose of this symposium is to explore these vital intersections. Over the next 2 days, we will engage in thought-provoking discussions on how media contributes to policy making, crisis communication, digital diplomacy, and India's international image, while also addressing challenges such as misinformation and propaganda. This gathering, jointly organized by APJ Satya University and the Indian Council of World Affairs, brings together some of the finest minds, academicians, policymakers, media professionals, and researchers to share insights and foster dialogue. It is a unique opportunity to view media not just as a communication tool, but also as a strategic partner in shaping the India's foreign policy. With that, I once again welcome you all to this important academic endeavor, and I look forward to an engaging and enriching exchange of ideas that will inspire us all. Ladies and gentlemen, as a mark of our tradition of warmth, respect, and sustainable values, we now move to the ceremonial welcoming of our distinguished guest with the green plant. The green plant is not only a symbol of our gratitude, but also represents growth, harmony, and a shared commitment to nurturing knowledge and ideas that this symposium stands for. May I now request our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Dr. Vijay Veer Singh, to please welcome our chief guest, Dr. Dhyaneshwar Muley, former High Commissioner of India to Maldives. Next, I request our Honorable Vice Chancellor to please welcome our distinguished speaker, Dr. Arnav Chakrabarti. Give a huge round of applause, everyone. Thank you, sir. To begin this august gathering on an auspicious note, we shall now proceed with the ceremonial lighting of the lamp. The lamp is a timeless symbol of knowledge, wisdom, and enlightenment. It's the light that dispels darkness and guides us towards truth and understanding. As we inaugurate this international symposium, may the flame of the lamp inspire us all to engage in a meaningful dialogue and collective learning. I humbly invite our chief guest, Dr. Dhyaneshwar Muley, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Dr. Vijay Veer Singh, our distinguished guest, Dr. Arnav Chakrabarti, respected Registrar, Dr. Pradeep Kumar, and Professor Sanjay Ahirwal, Convener Symposium and Dean SJMC, to kindly join us for the lamp lighting ceremony.
Shubham kurutvam kalyanam arogyam dhanasampada. Shubham kurutvam kalyanam arogyam dhanasampada. Shatru buddhi vinashaya deepajyotir namostute. Deepajyotir namostute. Deepajyotir parabrahma. Deepajyotir janardanah. Deepajyotir parabrahma. Deepajyotir janardanah. Deepo hartu me papam. Sandhya deepa namostute. O deepa brahma rupasvam. Jyotisham prabhuravya
Thank you, everyone. As we move forward with today's proceedings, we take a moment to honor the memory of Karma Yogi late Dr. Satya Paul Ji, the visionary founder chancellor of APJ Satya University, whose life and legacy continue to guide our journey. Dr. Satya Paul Ji was not only an industrialist and educationist, but also a philanthropist, freedom fighter, and thought leader whose legacy continues to guide and inspire us. His vision of excellence laid the foundation of APJ education, which today nurtures thousands of young minds across the country. To honor his life, ideals, and enduring contribution, we now present a short film dedicated to the journey and vision of Dr. Satya Paul Ji.
कर्मण्येवाधिकारस्ते मा फलेषु कदाचन मा कर्मफलहेतुर्भो मा ते सङ्गोऽस्त्वविकर्मणि.
Eminent industrialist, educationist, freedom fighter, and philanthropist, Dr. Satya Paul founded the APJ Satya and Swaran group that has achieved an iconic status in independent India. The group is known as a trusted symbol of quality and excellence in the country's industrial landscape. A pioneering visionary with a deep commitment to society, Dr. Paul remained the inspiration and the guiding force behind the APJ Education Society, which he established in 1967. Today, the society provides quality education from pre-primary to doctoral levels to over 32,000 students through 29 educational institutions. Dr. Satya Paul was also the founder chancellor of the APJ Satya University, India's first liberal arts university. APJ Satya University aims to produce young Renaissance men and women who would be leaders of today and tomorrow. Born on the 4th of October in the year 1919, he surged ahead and faced all the challenges with firm determination. A brilliant scholar, Dr. Satya Paul was a university gold medalist in mathematics in undivided Punjab. During the course of the independence struggle in India, he became quite involved as a freedom fighter. As a result of his active participation, he was imprisoned by the British during the famous Quit India movement. Dr. Satya Paul lost his parents at a very young age, but he took up the responsibilities of taking care of his entire family and running the family business. Under his inspirational leadership, the APJ Satya and Swaran group has become one of the most reputed corporate houses of the country. Apart from its large social commitment to education, it is actively participating in other business enterprises as well. Throughout his long and illustrious life, Dr. Satya Paul held responsible positions reflecting his versatility, his leadership, and his eminence. Numerous awards and honors were bestowed upon Dr. Satya Paul, though he never desired any monuments for himself. Dr. Satya Paul's humility, simplicity, and affection impressed one and all. The happiest moments of his life were spent with children. He made us believe that it is not a disgrace if dreams remained unfulfilled, but it is a disgrace if we have no dreams at all. A true Karma Yogi, Dr. Satya Paul retained his zeal for hard work even during his advanced age and remained keenly involved in the management of the APJ institutions. Active till the very end, he departed from the world peacefully on the 7th of June 2010 while preparing to leave for office. His daughter, Sushma Paul Barlia, together with her husband, Vijay Barlia, and their children, Nishant, Aditya, and Neha carry forward the legacy of excellence, trust, and growth of the group. You are a spiritual being. You are energy, and energy cannot be created or destroyed. It just changes from one form to another. Therefore, the pure essence of you has always been and will always be with us.
May his values continue to illuminate our path and inspire generations to come. Ladies and gentlemen, to set the tone for this international symposium, it is my privilege to now invite Professor Sanjay Agarwal, convener of the symposium and Dean, School of Journalism and Mass Communication, APJ Satya University, to deliver the welcome address.
Thank you all for being here. May I take this opportunity to pay respect to Lord Swaraj Paul, who has left us just recently. He was our guru and mentor. I would request all of you to kindly stand and keep silent for 1 minute and pay our respect to Lord Swaraj Paul, please. Thank you so much. Lord Swaraj Paul was Satyapal ji's younger brother. He was very close to us. He was the one who also came here and he started this building and put the first stone here. So it's really sad that we just lost him in London. Well, to begin with, again, thanking all of you dignitaries for coming here. The role of media in shaping public opinion and influencing diplomatic relations is more critical than ever, especially now. And believe me, I was in a great place to know this, having spent more than 25 years of my professional life in media, reporting and commenting. I distinctly remember Shekhar Gupta's landmark 1999 interview with the then Pakistani Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif, which culminated in an invitation to our then Prime Minister, Mr. Atal Bihari Vajpayee, to visit Pakistan, and the subsequent Lahore bus journey, which stands as a testament to the power of impactful journalism in fostering dialogue between nations. That historic series of events served as a powerful example of how media can directly contribute to improving international relations, a core theme of our symposium. It is something else that it was followed by the Kargil incursion by General Pervez Musharraf in May 1999 and the IC-814 hijack in December 1999, which led to the release of 3 dreaded terrorists by India at Kandahar. This topsy-turvy relationship with our neighbor continues today. However, today we are really honored by the presence of our speakers and distinguished guests. We thank all of you from the bottom of our hearts for accepting our invitation. Your address would undoubtedly provide a compelling and insightful start to deliberations, inspiring students, researchers, and professionals alike. We are confident that your unique perspective will elevate the discourse and set a high standard for the entire event. I thank the researchers and paper presenters. Your unique perspective would no doubt add a lot of value to this symposium. Lastly, I also take this opportunity to thank Indian Council of World Affairs, that is ICWA, for joining hands with APJ Satya University and giving us this unique opportunity to jointly organize this important international symposium. Thank you all and all the best.
Thank you, sir, for your gracious words of welcome and for laying the foundation of today's deliberations. Moving ahead with the proceedings of this international symposium, it is essential to be guided by the vision and wisdom of our leadership. His academic insights and vast experience have always been a source of inspiration for the university community. I now invite our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Dr. Vijay Veer Singh, to kindly deliver the opening remarks.
Good morning to all. Namaskar. Distinguished chief guest of this morning, Ambassador D.M. Mule, Indian service officer exemplifying stellar performance. More than that, he is a social crusader, doing lots of work in his area. Have been the member of National Human Rights Commission and working as advisor to National Skill Development Council at present also. Our speaker of the day, Arnab Chakravarti, representing ICWA also, a distinguished expert in the area of Latin American studies. Our guests from various institutions, Ogra Saab is here, Mithilesh Singh ji here, Renu ji is here, Madam Batala is here, and other media personalities who has come from outside. Last but not the least, the faculty members, deans, participants, and dear students. It gives me immense pleasure to welcome you all here in this symposium on a very relevant topic, that is connecting media with Indian foreign policy. And once you are connecting media with foreign policy, certainly there will be lots of issues which will be discussed, and I certainly congratulate the School of Journalism and Mass Communication for selecting this theme for the symposium. And more than that, I am grateful to ICWA for supporting us in this endeavor. I am not expert in media studies or in diplomacy or international relations. But whatever we read nowadays or listen to people like you in various meetings, the purpose of this symposium, I feel, is that we are looking forward to explore the interlinkages between media and Indian foreign policy and diplomacy. Why we are looking for these interlinkages? Because they are ever increasing and changing at a very fast pace. More than that, obviously, as the youngsters might be feeling, or whenever we discuss those issues, in these interlinkages, one of the important question comes that whether media is impacting the foreign policy and diplomacy through the public perception, because media has the power to create a public perception. That is inbuilt question generally comes in the mind of not experts, but as laymen like us, we can visualize if that question comes in mind. First case that all of us know, with time, the role of media has become, I will say, a dominant player in democracy. It has always been the strong player of the democracy, but day by day it becomes strong. And certainly it has key role in affecting the public opinion. At the same time, it's not the diplomacy we are discussing today. For centuries, the diplomacy is there, but diplomacy over time has also changed at a very, very fast pace, particularly in this century, or I may say recently, in last 1 decade or so. But one thing common has been in the policy is that is the source of information. There is information given to the policy makers. So this is the information on which we are deciding the policy and the diplomacy. And now, because media becomes the major information provider to public also, and that's why the media diplomacy has become important. Initially, I don't think that Dr. Hule can basically highlight that area, that I don't think that media's role was that much visible whenever at the international platforms or whenever discussing policies, or you can say the briefing of media on various activities and the regular briefing of media. And I may be wrong, but if I understand media, media has double role. As an independent actor, and media can also be the tool in the hands of policymakers and journalists. I say I may be wrong, but this is what I feel, that one, I can be independent actor also, but I can act as a tool also. But once I am acting in these two roles, then these interlinkages becomes much more important. And those needs to be discussed, those needs to be studied. With that, with those changes, now one of the key role I find the change in media or the impact of media is the 24/7 connectivity. I can access information 24/7. Channels are operating 24/7. Every second, every minute, I get some news on my mobile phone. So that connectivity is basically, that is, information is very fast. If you look at the traditional diplomacy, the foreign service officials in the host country used to supply the information to the national country, okay, this is what happening, and generally those details were not known to public in detail, I can say. Now, when public is getting information immediately, then public is also, people are also making their perception. And that is why we see a change, not only media, including social media, policy makers, governments, foreign service people or the ministries are also using media and social media for various purposes. But media is giving us certain news. Do we think that news should be analyzed, or the information provided by the media that needs analysis? And in case of foreign policy and diplomacy, only diplomats had that capacity to analyze, because that is not the only factor. There are several other factors which are to be taken into consideration. So governments can use for information creating or diluting the propaganda created by other country, but that is certainly needs to be analyzed properly, and that needs to be studied properly. If you go into the world history and look at the World War I, it was a small incident between two countries, very small countries. That Crown Prince of Austro-Hungary was killed by Serbian nationalists. And if you look at those papers, that type of research and the media coverage, that media narrated that incident as a geopolitical incident. And that finally converted into World War I. And after that, you can say, or I can understand, that media played a key role in forming the opinion, because prior to that, that everything was not available on the table. Now everything is available on the table. In nutshell, I can say that people have opinion about media in terms of negative or positive effect. Some people say it has effect, some people say it does not have effect on policies or particularly foreign policy. But that needs to be analyzed, and as a student of public policy, I can say that now policy makers also keep that in mind, that how media will react to a particular policy. Initial that might not be the situation. Now, if you look at the recent events, recent one is the Operation Sindoor. Both the countries, both the policy makers, both the country diplomats use media to give proper information or nullify the misinformation or nullify the propaganda against each other. And you see the height of the power of media, or you can say the tool of media used by basically the policy makers. The defense personnel, diplomats are continuously briefing media to dilute the misinformation provided by the other country or the international media. Another incident recently going on, basically the Ukrainian crisis. NATO developed the perception through media that US, the invasion of Russia, should be seen in the different light. If you see the reports on UN, large number of countries are supporting Russian version, large countries are supporting NATO version, some countries are neutral, but the perception is very clear that Russia is at fault. I don't know, but the question is, who created that perception? That perception is again created by the media, and who owns that media, that is equally important, that needs to be studied. It is clear that governments, the policy makers, in the present times, they have no other option but to use various media, including social media, to publicize their policies, publicize their trade relations, publicize their schemes through those medias. And I will say, this is one side to create perception of the public, and the other side, equally important, is how to nullify the misinformation created by the vested interest people. In that light, here the analysis is very important, that how media can affect, how much policymakers give importance to that perception created in the public, because all policies are not affecting public directly. If government wants to implement policy, media never stops them, government goes for implementation. Similarly, in case of NATO and in case of Operation Sindoor, whatever decision is taken by these countries, who will tell us and how we can claim that this is due to the perception of media, the perception created by media. So these analyses only the policymakers can tell us, or they can know. This is not very easy to analyze that this was the region, how this was affected. With that, I understand that the role of media will remain important, but policies have their separate zone. In that separate zone, because why we say the separate zone? Because the policymakers have to take provision, or to make provision for that also, the misinformation, the vested interest, and the other things in mind. And secondly, media has to take in mind that this is not only the one area where the policy is looking for, other aspects are also affecting the policy, not the single aspect. I'm sure these all things will be discussed into these 2 days deliberations, because eminent experts from media they are going to guide you for next 2 days. Eminent diplomat is here with us today to narrate his version on the policy aspect, and I'm sure the discussion will be fruitful. With that, I again welcome all the guests, all the participants in this symposium, and wish symposium a big success. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for your insightful opening remarks and for guiding us with your words of wisdom. We are honored to now hear from our Honorable Pro-Chancellor, Dr. Neha Bharlia, a beacon of progressive leadership and academic innovation, a graduate of Stanford University with advanced degrees from the University of St. Gallen and Harvard Business School. She leads the education vertical of APJ Satya and Swaran Group and oversees 26 educational institutions under APJ Education, including APJ Satya University, impacting over 40,000 students. Recognized with awards such as Education Entrepreneur 2024 and Educationist of the Year 2023, she is also an accomplished athlete, classical musician, and philanthropist. Today, on this gracious occasion, ma'am has kindly shared her insights with us through a recorded message. May I request everyone to join us in listening to her inspiring words.
This August gathering brings together scholars, journalists, diplomats, and media professionals to APJ Satya University to reflect on India's evolving media landscape and its influence on foreign policy frameworks. Deliberations and investigation will happen on how media channels, traditional and digital, continue to international diplomacy and strategic messaging. It is high time we understood how stories are framed in times of conflict and their influence on regional peace building or polarization. Over the next 2 days, all of you will be examining the role of social media, public diplomacy, and cultural messaging in shaping India's global image, especially addressing challenges posed by fake news, propaganda, and information warfare, and exploring responsible and media practices. Hopefully, deliberations will promote scholarly and professional dialogue around India's media engagement in the international arena. Encourage policy-level reflections on the ethics, impact, and responsibilities of media narratives. Foster cross-sector partnerships and collaborative research on media and foreign policy. Attending this international symposium are academics and students of media and international relations media professionals and journalists, diplomats and public policy experts, researchers, educators, and members of civic society. We welcome you to APJ Satya University. We are also welcome your research papers, case studies, or opinion essays related to conference sub-themes. Selected papers will be published in the conference proceedings in a book. Finally, I thank Council of World Affairs for partnering with the School of Journalism and Mass Communication of APJ Satya University in organizing this very timely and important international symposium on media and Indian foreign policy. I wish all the best to everyone involved with the symposium. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for your gracious words of guidance. It is my pleasure to now welcome our distinguished speaker, Dr. Arnab Chakrabarti, who is a research fellow at the Indian Council of World Affairs, specializing in Latin America. Dr. Chakrabarti earned his doctorate from Jawaharlal Nehru University and has previously served as faculty at Sikkim University. He is a Governor's Medal and Gold Medal awardee in his Masters in International Relations. Dr. Chakrabarti has numerous publications on Latin American politics, history, civil-military relations, and India-Latin America relations. He is proficient in German and Spanish, and his work has been featured in The Diplomatist, Kutniti, the Costa Rican News, and the Forum for Integrated National Security. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Arnab Chakrabarti for his address.
Good morning, everybody. Am I audible? Right. Heartiest greetings to all the dignitaries and to dear students. It is indeed my pleasure to address such an august audience and a privilege to represent the Indian Council of World Affairs. Now, as our independence struggle, it reached a crescendo. It became quite a big thing. we were challenging the British Empire, there were a group of eminent scholars and thinkers who thought that international relations was an important subject that will evolve in the future. So we needed our own independent minds and our own independent thoughts and to channelize them together. There was a British foreign policy think tank during those days. It was known as the RIIA, or the Royal Institute of International Affairs. And to rival that, it was our patriotic spirit to create the ICWA. The concept evolved in 1940s, before independence. So there were scholars and stalwarts like H.N. Kunzru, P.N. Sapru, who were instrumental in the creation of the ICWA. It received support from Pandit Nehru, and in 1943, this institute was created where I work. Now, ICWA is the oldest and the most prestigious think tank in India, specializing in foreign policy. We have dedicated centers for all the areas. For instance, I look into Latin America. There are other centers as well. And from where we actually created the Asian Relations Conference, and from where actually the SIS of JNU emerged. In 1955, the iconic Sapri House building was inaugurated, where today it's our office. And in 1965, the research wing was created. So in these years, you see ICWA has fostered the study of foreign policy, something which is very essential considering how India is emerging and is going to play an even more pivotal role in the near future. And so when you see in 2001, exactly on this day, in 3rd September, it was declared as an Institute of National Importance. So drawing from our very illustrious history, which predates independence, it has a very public think tank. It has created numerous ideas. We create literature, we analyze, we study, and we delve into research. Now, ICWA, which actually, we have some programs now about which I'd like to speak for a moment. We have a university outreach program that promotes informed opinion on foreign policy. We have monographs in which you can also write. We have book proposals in which we invite faculties and all to write, and we offer grants as well. We have Sapru House papers, which are long papers in which you can write on foreign policy matters and probably they'll get published. We have paid and unpaid internships both. So in the first category, that's the unpaid internship, we invite students who are pursuing masters for a 6 weeks course and as an intern. And in the second category, we invite those who have completed their masters for 6 months. That's the paid one. And we also have a foreign policy awareness grant under which we support universities and all. Now, regarding this topic, I actually am not an expert on media. I like to say that at the outset. So please don't see me as somebody very genius, you know. But as a foreign policy, from a point of view of foreign policy, and it's very interesting the intertwining and the interlinkages, as some eminent speakers have always spoken before. So what is defining between human beings and animals, let's say? What is defining? You know, they also communicate in their own way, but we speak. We speak languages. We speak emotions through languages, you know. So as a result, communication has been one of the mainstay of a civilization. You know, if we didn't have languages, we would be still like cavemen, you know, like gesticulating and gesturing. And communication has been a key, and communication has been a foundation of our civilizations. And that is where it has given a template for human progress and more complicated thoughts, which can be translated into words and languages. Now, when we come to communication, ostensibly you think about media, news anchors on the television screens, the print media, you read your newspapers, you have your radios, and you know, nowadays you get news at a click of a button. And then when you come to foreign policy, you have this image of diplomats, you know, IFS officers, the prime minister, politicians, you know, great summits, meetings, a lot of handshakes and exchange of pleasantries and all. But behind the scenes, there is a lot of hard work. I mean, it's sometimes very strange that people just conceptualize foreign policy as something only very glitzy and glamorous. It's not like that. It takes a lot of Herculean efforts to actually make a policy. You need perfect information for that. Now, for instance, you're going to a different place. You have no idea about that place. You don't know where is it. You don't know the people, the languages, what they do there. You have zero information. How would you plan out? So if you make a trip, for instance, I'm giving a very simple example for the younger minds to understand. You need perfect amount of information. The more perfect, the better. So media is important. It gives us information, yes. It also helps us to understand things which might be beyond our reach. But again, what is exactly foreign policy? It is basically a country's external relations and all. It is a way to achieve your goals, your targets, and to secure your national interest. Now again, national interest becomes a very varied topic, depends from countries to countries, for instance. Some country may have a national interest like to protect the biodiversity. Some may say, okay, we would like to be a global superpower, have more military power or something, or even become a nuclear power, for instance. So it depends on countries and how you seek to augment or achieve those goals. So let's say diplomacy is the means to achieve it and to hold it and all. And foreign policy is what we seek. So it's important to also note, as I just said, that it has a lot of responsibility in creating a foreign policy or creating ideas like that or to develop relations. Now look at the current situation. You have tariffs from the United States, so we are diversifying even more. We're taking the challenge quite strongly. We are making outreaches to other countries and all, we're attending summits. So how do you channelize all that? Because for that you need information, and only then you'll be able to make something like that. Now, we can also imagine, right, from the years of the independence to the recent Operation Sindoor, how we have carried our policies and all. But often we miss the axis which provides information on matters related to foreign policy, which is the media. Now, there was a time when, when we were kids, we'd sit around the radio or maybe in front of the television and listen to Doordarshan. So there'd be an anchor coming and rattling of the news today, this happened, and that's it. And then you had these news channels coming out with their own analysis, own ideas, different type of news, sometimes conflicting as well. So there was no one source of information. In fact, right now, and this is for the Gen Z especially, I see that most of you are on Instagram, or I'm not sure if on Twitter or not, but some of your information comes from Instagram Reels, some which may be true, some which may be fake. So you see media is everywhere and different types of media. I'm not just talking about the formal media, I'm also talking about the informal media in this case. Similarly, diplomacy has undergone a lot of changes. What is diplomacy? There's a very sweet way of explaining. Let's say it's the art of telling somebody to go to hell in such a way that they actually look forward to the trip. It's something like that. It's very sweet. So you have all these pleasantries, these exchanges, these meetings and all. The traditional approach was, let's say, more bureaucratic, in which it was a bit more concealed. There was not much of a public diplomacy. But nowadays you see, you have a public diplomacy division even within the MEA. So the ministries or the people out there involved, they interact, and you become a part and parcel of your daily lives. In fact, now you see foreign policy is discussed even on the streets. It's amazing. Everybody's talking about Trump and the tariffs. Half of them don't even probably know what Trump is. But Trump is there is something called tariff, something has happened. They know about it. So that's interesting. So that means how much the media has actually crossed your lives. And regarding the Great Wars, and Sir just mentioned about the Great Wars, the First World War and all, it is true actually, because the radio programs of those days, the news headlines like war, or in German, Krieg, those kind of words are enough to start enmity. So what started off as an assassination ended up in one of the most bloodiest wars in the history of mankind. Same way, if you see the Kargil war, when we were kids or something, or even some countries like the Parliament attack of 2001, or even the IC-814 hijacking, the media played a pivotal role in shaping public opinion. We were all very moved by seeing how our soldiers are fighting in the Parliament attack or during the Kargil conflict, cheering as we got news that we are winning and all. We were very heartbroken also when we saw our visuals or news that one of our fighter planes in Kargil was shot down. So one can safely conclude that yes, media has played a crucial role, but is that the sole function of the media? Especially when you talk about policy or foreign policy and things like that. Is media something that just comes, rattles of news and goes away and then leaves you like, okay, what do we do now? The media actually has tremendous responsibility for reporting, churning out positive narratives, especially in this situation or these periods when social media is a reach. As I just mentioned, some of the news comes from Instagram Reels, which may be fake. In fact, It is very, it was not, I mean, it was expected that when Operation Sindhu was going on, our Western neighbor was targeting with all their fake news and propaganda, which we successfully did bust. Media also plays a very key role in formulating opinion and provides a base for decisions. And even the business of drafting foreign policies, sometimes media does provide some alternative views which are useful, let me admit that. But this should also be taken with measured caution. For example, there might be some jingoistic statements being made. So when you take a very big decision, or when people take decisions like that, they are very calm, they take whatever information that is available, they analyze. You know, a part of my job is also to analyze. That's my job actually. Like, I do read news from Latin America in their languages or in English, and I just can't write anything I wish. I have to sit down, analyze, filter out as much as possible, and from our point of view, we have to write. Now, in the context of India, there are divergent views. There are some who regard the role of media as very important, and sometimes they even put it at a higher pedestal than policymakers, while some believe that its job is just to provide information and feedback, and that, you know, it should not encroach upon the realm of foreign policy and decision making. But then foreign policy is better left to those people who are experts in it. That doesn't mean I'm belittling the media. I'm admitting it's quite important, but it's a much more subtle subject that is best left to the experts and all. Because diplomacy and foreign policy is like an artistic expression that requires sufficient knowledge, temperament, wit and wisdom, and even information and about the curiosities of the subject that are dealt with. In the position of power, foreign policy analysts sometimes have an upper hand in foreign policy making. But despite shortcomings, let's say, TV shows, those debates you see on TV, some news anchors and panelists and all, they do provide valuable insights and all. Only thing is that I think it should be a bit measured in its sense. Ultimately, when I come to an end of my speech, I'd like to say this, especially to the younger audience. We are in testing times, to be very honest. Nothing is more paramount than the country's prestige and its national interest. And as sworn citizens of this country, it is our duty to uphold the prestige of this country, in which we are all born and lucky for it. Because there is a lot of fake news out there. And it's also the responsibility of the media to fight this fake news. They have done that brilliantly, and they shall continue to do so. Because nowadays, warfare is not just like restricted to the battlefield. We are all soldiers without a uniform. So as a result of which, it's a situation where it will be very important if we contribute in creating narratives which are positive about our country, because that will have more reception abroad and also foster a greater sense of unity. With this, I'd like to end. I wish you all the best and a very successful symposium. Thank you.
We sincerely thank Dr. Arnab for sharing his wonderful insights with us today. Now I would like to invite our Honorable Chief Guest, along with other distinguished guests, Honorable Vice Chancellor, respected Registrar, and the convener of this symposium to kindly release the souvenir. Ma'am and sir, please join. Thank you, everyone. So,
Vikram Chandra seems to have lost his way coming to the university, but he'll be here in 2 minutes. Can we have a few question answers if we have any for Anup sir? And then he'll be here in 2 minutes. Thank you.
so introduction. Yeah. It is my privilege to now welcome our chief guest, Dr. Dhyaneshwar Mule, former High Commissioner of India to Maldives. Dr. Mule is a distinguished Indian Foreign Services officer who served for 35 years and was a member of National Human Rights Commission until April 2024. He has held key diplomatic positions, including Consul General of India, New York, and High Commissioner to the Maldives. During his tenure in New York, he initiated popular lecture series such as Media India 2014 and India State by State, and established a film and literature club to promote Indian culture abroad. A prolific writer, he has authored over 15 books, including Mati, Pank Ani Akash, which is part of the arts curriculum at North Maharashtra University. He has also inspired socio-educational projects like Balodyan Orphanage and the Dhyaneshwar Mule Education Society. I now invite Dr. Dhyaneshwar Mule to please address the gathering. Sir, please welcome.
Namaskar and good morning to everyone. How is the Josh? Okay. So I promise you one thing that I'm not going to read out, and I'd like more to share my own experiences rather than borrowing from books of diplomacy or foreign policy. So thank you, Vice Chancellor, for inviting me, and you've been very kind in making me the chief guest. I don't know whether I deserve it, but nevertheless, it's always good to have these honors. So when we talk of media and foreign policy, there is one similarity, yes, and that similarity is rightly with, soldiers. We all fight our wars differently. Even though I must say I have one complaint about media is I don't see media really at the international war fronts. I don't know, for example, right now whether there is any Indian journalist. Come. Let's have a big clap to our. So I just, mentioning about a word of criticism about media, and you are perhaps exception to that. There aren't many Indian reporters actually going to the war front overseas. I'm not saying Indian, within India. How many of them are reporting from, say, Ukraine and Russia, for example, right now? I don't know. Maybe there might be somebody who is doing that. And even if they do it, they might do it from Kyiv, or they might be doing it, from Moscow. So I think but they are like soldiers. They're constantly on the move and, want to. What about diplomats? Diplomats have word as their weapon. Same is with the media people also. Words is the weapon, and that's the ultimate weapon. There's a great saint in Maharashtra who says that Shabdachi amuche jivache jivana. The words is the life of our life. That without that we cannot survive. And true, because words will help you in forming the perception. And media does influence the diplomacy. And the diplomatic officials or the foreign service officials, they do help. Ultimately, content is the king, isn't it? But who has the content? Is it the media which has the content? Or is it the diplomats or the foreign policy makers who have the content? It is obviously, the foreign service, the policy makers, the diplomats, the ambassadors, they have the content, and they have to really share it, and they have to decide the way. I'll give you some interesting examples now from my own experience. Back in 1980s, I was a young officer. I'm still a young officer though. In 1980s, I was in Japan, and diplomacy was very different. You would agree. Back then we were still in the days of non-alignment, and Commonwealth, those kind of things. And of course, India had led and was at the forefront of many things in the world. So we had a practice of weekly meetings in the mission. Ambassador would take that typically the meeting. And once the topic came as to why India is projected so badly in the Japanese. That time nothing of social media was there. Newspapers from India used to come once in a week in the diplomatic pouch. And so we had this discussion why the Japanese media only projects India's poverty, India's riots, India's jhuggi jhopdis. Why aren't there any pictures? Though India was, according to us, was doing rather well. Situation was very different. Japan was completely aligned with that time with USA. India was aligned completely with Russia, and you can't say it openly, but yes, we were having very close relations with the Eastern Bloc, so to say. So we had decided that what to do if this perception and image is there consistently. We felt bad looking at the Japanese newspapers. As it is, we did not understand much of the Japanese, but certainly we could see the pictures. So it was decided by ambassador that two representatives, two diplomats will go to the main newspapers. And here is the interesting part of it. They will go and they'll ask as to why are you publishing negative news about India all the times. And I was, of course, one of the deputies, so we went from this place to place. Initially, of course, they didn't even accept. Unfortunately, the relationship was at a low ebb. Nobody really wanted to see us also, but with great difficulty we did manage meetings at the sub-editor level, not even at the chief editor level. Those were the days. Today it's very different. If Indian ambassador or Indian diplomat seeks a meeting with the editor, they will immediately give it. So we went and we told them, why are you, India is doing great dams, we have got IIMs, we have got IITs, we have got huge industry, among the developing countries, we are the leaders. तो क्यों आप हमारे बारे में इतना खराब लिखते हो newspaper में? Don't you have anything good to say about us? So, 2 or 3 of them had kept Indian newspapers ready. And what they did is, they said that these are your newspapers. Look at what they have written. And which was unfortunate but true that even Indian newspapers wrote quite negative. Now, I'm not saying whether they were truthful, not truthful, whether the Japanese were correct, Japanese newspapers were correct in depicting India's image this way or that way. I'm not making any judgment. Let's shift the situation to New Delhi. Another example. I'm not quoting anybody's name so that you don't have to. This is also not the current example, a prior example. There is a discussion going on, more or less on the same topic, in Delhi, in very high position. Foreign Secretary is one of the persons who is attending it. And the question comes in this very top elite group as to why India's image is projected so badly outside. Why? And of course, in such gatherings it's very difficult, but Foreign Secretary then, whosoever was there, very intelligent, very sharp, very observant, experienced. He said, sir, the image can't be better than the original. And of course, it was not liked. And I won't tell you what happened subsequently, but was the kind of situation in 80s and 90s till we opened up. We realigned our diplomacy. We went all over the world. We actually opened our doors to the world. We were very cautious, you know. I won't like to say that, but we would see any foreign media person coming here with huge suspicion. Partly they were responsible also for creating such an impression, but it is a fact that, you know, so we were very restrictive also. But now these things have changed, and you know, you see here is our Prime Minister with more than 100 million followers, conducting diplomacy on a day-to-day basis or a minute-to-minute basis. If you see today, he has said and informed the world about the semiconductor development of India. So at any given point of time, 10 crore people are looking at the diplomacy. Diplomacy in the olden times moved in a very, very different way. We used to get newspapers, as I said, once in a week, and with great enthusiasm, we will open it and, you know, see it. We'll pick up the bags from our respective packets from the embassy, go home, and then see it. Today, that's not the case. Today, even diplomats themselves are being told to tweet. They are told to come to Facebook. They are told to engage with people proactively, and they are very much, you know, proactively promoting the narratives, you know, about India, whatever comes from the headquarters, but also the image of India today. If you see Mr. Jaishankar himself, you know, he is today congratulated the Vietnam, you know, then Mr. Jaishankar has almost what, 3 million, 4 million people following him. We have had this institution of JSXP, external publicity. Now his role has expanded like anything. Well, he has to be kind of omnipresent. And if you really see his tweets, you know, he's become the chief information officer, not only on behalf of only Ministry of External Affairs, on behalf of the, you know, often the entire part of the establishment. Say, for example, Ministry of Defense, Ministry of Home Affairs. Well, now the line between local and global has completely been blurred. There's nothing called local completely. There's nothing called, you know, global completely. Everything that happens in US directly affects us. Anything that Japan does or Korea does or China does has a direct impact on us. While it provides a number of challenges, it also provides a huge opportunity for us in India. So simultaneously, one would say safely that in India, the diplomatic reporting or diplomatic coverage traditionally has been very, very low. For example, I come from Kolhapur. If you go to Kolhapur and ask people what is diplomacy, even today, what is foreign policy? Foreign policy itself is not a static thing, it's fluid. And nowadays, unlike earlier times, you have to define what you want to do almost on a day-to-day basis, minute-to-minute basis sometimes. And you've seen that, and I think rightly mentioned by the Vice Chancellor, the kind of things took place during Sindhu, setting narratives, destroying the narratives, recreating the narratives. You know, that shows that how active the media and the diplomats both were there during that time. Well, I came to come to an entirely different place and show you another picture of diplomacy. We have all heard about CNN and BBC for a long time, right? What were they doing? They were actually doing part of the job of diplomats for their respective countries for a very, very long time. We didn't have that kind of tradition, primarily because we are, I think, quite inward-looking ourselves. We started slowly opening, and today you see a lot of coverage, including our distinguished, speaker, here. They are now started going out, reporting from various places. There was a tradition that was established of, taking media team with the Honorable Prime Minister. Media would extensively cover in a diverse fashion at that time. But it is a fact now that media is everywhere. You don't, and also the times are such that you don't have to be everywhere now. So coming back to Maldives, I was in Maldives in very difficult and interesting, challenging times. I saw a coup, I saw a transfer of power, I saw new elections from which took the country from centrally controlled system to democracy. So we had a very typical problem with Maldives, and it's a lesson for both diplomats as well as media persons who cover Maldives. In India, in 240 billion population, we don't have a single person who studies Maldives full time. See what kind of lack of understanding we have about an important neighbor. There is not one person. And if there is anyone, I know one person who is half expert, means half of his time he gives to Maldives. He's from Chennai. But even if I concede that there is one person, not a single person is there in India who understands the Divehi language, which is Maldives' working language, not English. English everybody understands. So what do you know about that country? If we don't understand the media of that country, all the tweets will be initially, in English of the ministers. The president will tweet they will all tweet in Divehi, not in English. So when, the former president came to the High Commission and he said that we would like to stay here because I'm unsafe. It was difficult, let me tell you, that to understand what exactly the Maldivian people felt, because we could not read their newspapers. Of course, we then had a lag in translation and the real situation. How could Indian media cover it either? Well, they'll again come to us only or some English-speaking Maldivians and go and cover them. So it's very important that you also localize expertise is there with both the Indian diplomats as well as with our media persons who want to play a larger role. It is expected. Now, you see Vian or whatever, Palki Sharma, they're focusing now on international image of India, you can say image perception, they're trying to do their own ways. But even now, there is a huge lack of understanding about what India stands for, how India is conducting its democracy, how India wants to build its future with the East as West. Traditionally, we call East-West, but West and the rest of the world. There is a lot of ambiguity. We have to really come forward. I think one area where we have done extremely well is the International Yoga Day. The whole world unanimously accepted, and now every year you see that there is a huge celebration, yoga celebration all over the world. This is part of the soft power. The other area where we have done, not actively, inadvertently, thanks to our Bollywood, the Bollywood films have really taken a Hindi language everywhere. I think much beyond what the official Hindi officer, traditionally do it here. Third one, chicken tikka. In the US, the media doesn't really mean media alone. The journalists, the elements in our life that act as media. Food. I was in New York as Consul General, and I found that in and around New York, that time in 2013 to 16, there are about 300 Indian restaurants. And do you know what the caucus, that is the supporting group in the Congress and Senate in the US called? That is called Samosa Caucus. And samosa is very popular, I'm told, among the Senate members and Congress members there. So what I mean to say is this is a soft power also can be more effectively projected by media as well as diplomats. The hardcore diplomacy goes on. But In the normal peace time, when country is otherwise not in any difficult, challenging position like Sindoor or other thing, we must. And I don't think there is any other country that has so much of soft power that India has. And of late, people are coming to know about India more and more. And I would say it's not always the formal media, whether it is TV, whether it is newspapers or the radio, they shape the opinion. It is the millions of people who are now using social media. They are also shaping and creating narratives. You saw that in sometimes their opinions are divided, but that is the difficult part of having one screen in everybody's hand and everybody becoming a cameraman as well as a reporter. We have 7 billion plus, I think now, reporters and cameras all the time going on the world. Well, coming to Mauritius, let me say a few words about Mauritius and what I saw. Very easy country for diplomats. You comfortable, I'm talking from the Indian perspective, comfortable, you are respected, 70% of the population is Indian there. Mostly they are from Bhojpur area, but they are also from, there is a segment of Tamil population, Marathi population, Telugu population, and a major chunk from Bhojpur, UP, Bihar belt. But there is a small, minuscule population of French people there. The interesting part is Indians dominate in politics and bureaucrats. The French dominate on economic side. Therefore, subtly but surely they wield the real power, not us. So the media, if you see in Mauritius, is primarily there are smaller newspapers coming out of the Indian communities, but the real newspapers are owned by the French people, and they do, I must say, they do directly or indirectly work of impacting Indian influence in Mauritius in so many different ways. There are, of course, French politicians also, prominent politicians, not many of them, but we do not have some newspaper from India which should have gone by now. I wonder whether there is any Indian newspaper coming out of Mauritius. That is, these are the countries where India must have. Israel has a substantial Indian population, primarily from my state, Maharashtra. Jews from Konkan area and Mumbai area, huge, some of them from Gujarat area. We need to see how we can proactively establish ourselves. The media can do this job very effectively, in my view. Coming to US, what I saw is actually US controls you and me in so many different ways. Since the Second World War, the world narratives are being set by the United States of America, more or less. And we willy-nilly fall victim to those narratives. Because when we don't have an alternate, narratives or a number of alternate narratives, we have no choice but to see how they see us. And therefore, primarily, we really follow their ideas, follow their patterns, follow their food, follow their fashion. Well, I don't understand really what is there so great about a burger or a McDonald's. I really don't understand. That's the youngsters, ask youngsters and they'll say how much they like pizza and how much they like burger. Whether healthy, unhealthy, that's not this thing. This also kind of over a period of time, the narratives that have been set, and the economy, the diplomacy, and the foreign policy, and the soft power, cultural diplomacy, all going together. This is what they have achieved in very large scale. India has moved in that direction, but it may take some time till we establish this thing. I see a huge opportunity right now for India. Well, these are very conflicting times, very confusing times, but there is perhaps a need for an enlightened international leadership, global leadership. You know what's happening in US, I won't say anything about that. The world is divided in so many different layers and ways. There is inequality, there is poverty, there is deprivation, there is exploitation, wars are being imposed, wars are being fought, sometimes for no reasons. What's happening in Gaza, devastating. Very few people are able to raise their voice. That's also a fact. So in this kind of confusing place, now no more communism is there. We are really, all of us have become either part of capitalism or whatever you call liberal democracies. There is a huge vacuum at the global level, and I think India can seize this opportunity. How we bring together our academia, our industry, our economic leaders, our media, and policymakers, not only sitting in the South Bloc alone, but the entire set of policymakers. How do we all bring together? That is the challenge. I don't know whether we can effectively seize, because we have not seized often opportunities in the past. Whether the current opportunity can be seized, do we have that kind of desire, do we have that kind of a willpower, and do we have the value system that we can provide to the world, where the world will say, okay, this seems to be the right and let's follow this path, because right now everybody is in a kind of a disarray. So with this, I would like to say concludingly that, essentially media has sometimes very difficult times. They can be part of the divisions, subdivisions within the country, but they can also be playing with this dilemma as to whether I report only for what is right, or say whatever is happening here is only right, or also say that they are also right and we need to take a different position. Media has a difficult and challenging time, because immediately everybody will point out to them and say, yeah, you are not on the right path, you're not really taking the national interest path. That can be said. So difficult times, but nevertheless, as I said, India has great opportunities and we have great capacity. We have survived well as democracy, and I also hope and pray that we become a stronger democracy, and eventually at least, because I don't really think that 4 trillion or 3 trillion is the real issue. There are many other issues that will make us a leader, and how do we really take forward our cultural values to the world? How really we show a path that no, East and West doesn't have to keep on fighting all the time. We can all work together. So these leadership initiatives are expected from India as a country, and where media and diplomats, foreign policy experts can work together. Well, I pause here. Thank you very much. I really appreciate your attention, and I would like to thank Vice Chancellor once again for inviting me here. Thank you.
Thank you for this enlightening address, sir. Your insights and expertise made a significant impact. Before we proceed ahead, I request our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Dr. Vijay Veer Singh, to please welcome our keynote speaker, Mr. Vikram Chandra, a well-known journalist and founder of Editor G. It is my privilege to now welcome our esteemed keynote speaker, Mr. Vikram Chandra, a well-known journalist and founder of Editor G Technologies. Mr. Chandra is a visionary entrepreneur transforming the way we consume video news through innovation and artificial intelligence. Before founding Editor G, he was one of India's most recognizable TV news anchors, hosting shows like The Big Fight, 9 o'clock news, and Gadget Guru, along with socially transformative initiatives like Cleanathon, Greenathon, and Save Our Tigers. He has been at the forefront of innovations such as news on mobile, live video streaming on the internet, and India's first major news app. He is an alumnus of St. Stephen's College and Oxford University and further honed his media expertise at Stanford University. Mr. Vikram's contributions have earned him global and national recognition, including being named a global leader for tomorrow by the World Economic Forum, winning the Indian Television Academy Award for Best Anchor for a Talk Show, the Hero Honda Best Anchor Person Award, and many more. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Vikram Chandra for his address.
Thank you so much for that, and it's such a pleasure and a privilege to be here. Mr. Vice Chancellor, thank you so much for inviting me here. Professor Vijayveer Singh, Dr. Mule, it's always a pleasure meeting you. If you ever need anybody to go to the Maldives, I'm sure many of us would volunteer to do that. Not to go to a resort, yes, of course. My apologies. I had warned Professor Ahirwal that I'm only going to get here by 12 o'clock because there was a video conference which I was doing with the US partly on this theme. How do you address the question of media and foreign policy? Because it is clearly a problem. It is a massive challenge, and I'd like to take you through both the structural reasons why it is a problem and also what some of the solutions are that people have been talking about for the last 3 or 4 years with limited success. And I don't think we got an answer this morning either, but we're hopefully getting there. So if I could just, as I was entering, Dr. Muli, I heard you talking about the state of the media, and I couldn't agree with you more. For those of us who've spent 30 years in the media business, I have to say that I'm trying to figure out whether the word is shame or whether the word is embarrassment or whether it's just sadness at the level to which a lot of the media has actually fallen. This is not the way the media was. This is not the way media ideally should be. Professor Ahirwal and I have known each other a long, long time. We were in college together, and then we worked in the media together also. And there used to be a very different way of doing things. I think it's important to understand the root cause of what has been happening to the media. Because if you don't understand what the problem is, it's very difficult to find a solution. So obviously everybody will look and say, we should be doing fair and unbiased news. We should talk about rational issues. We should talk about matters of social concern and what's happening in the environment. We should spend time talking about foreign policy. We should send reporters to all corners of the world, and they should be reflecting the Indian point of view and presenting fair and accurate accounts of what's happening. Now, clearly, that's not happening. It's the reason for that. I think most experts who study the media business will realize that the reason, as with so many things in the world, eventually comes down to economics. It comes down to the business model. And that is the slide that we saw back in the days of the 80s and 90s and the early 2000s. There was a business model that said, do good quality journalism. And I'm talking largely about television, not so much about print, because TV is where I understand a little bit better. So there was a, sorry, can you just grab it? So there was a business model that said, do good quality journalism and you'll be able to get advertising and you'll be able to get the money to pay for it. That's what happens around the world. Then the business model started to change. Now around the world what happens is, if you're a CNN, if you're a BBC, if you're any Fox News, one of these people, you end up making a lot of revenue from subscription. Your model is subscription, right? People are paying for good quality news. That pays the bills, and so you're able to afford to do quality journalism. You don't compromise on the quality of your journalism because you're really thinking about ratings, because your subscribers are paying the bills. Now in India, what started to happen is, you got into the TRP race. No 3 letters have caused more damage in India, in my opinion, than the letters TRP. Because what TRP meant is that suddenly you've got all of these news channels and they are now stuck in a cycle. What is the cycle? You're not getting subscription money. The money that everyone pays their cable operator does not go to the television news channels. Instead, the TV news channels are paying the cable operator, say, mera channel dikhao. So subscription is now not a revenue, it's a cost. So how do you pay your bills? It has to come from advertising. Now the second part of the problem comes, what is advertising based on? Do advertisers say, bhai, this is a very good quality program, bhai, tum itna acha show kar rahe ho, tum itna acha programming kar rahe ho, uske basis pe will give you good advertising. Unfortunately not. The advertisers are saying, we are going to pay you on the basis of your TRP. Your program could be as bad as possible. It could be the worst program in the world. But अगर आपके TRPs अच्छे आ रहे हैं, हम आपको ads देंगे. Now consider the plight of people. Now everyone is scratching their head and thinking, "Acha, this is a very interesting beast." Now the third part of that problem comes is that TRPs are measured only by 50 to 60,000 boxes. A country of 1.4 billion people, 1.4 billion people, and you've got 50 to 60,000 boxes that are measuring it. Those boxes are distributed everywhere. The amount of measurement for English news, because for foreign policy and for these, it's really English that you have to be in, right? It's Hindi programming is not going to make an impact on the rest of the world. So their measurement is also a problem. And at the end of the day, what therefore turns out is that by now it's a scientifically proven fact for the last 15, 20 years. If you do good quality programming, you're sitting and discussing foreign policy and what we should do and economic reforms and how do you attract FDI and how do you, solve problems of the country, the TRPs of that are zero. Zero. The TRPs, it will not show up. It won't even show up in the ratings that you're doing good quality programming. Now instead, if you just get 3 people into the studio and make them shout at each other, everyone is shouting at each other, TRP is very good. You've got a tantric who comes, TRPs are even higher. You get a tantric to shout at somebody, your TRP shoot up further. If your anchor is a tantric, that's the best of it all. Or the anchor is shouting. So that's fundamentally the problem, right? If you are doing what is not necessarily good quality journalism, you're being rewarded by the advertisers. And the worst part of it is that if you're doing good quality journalism, that also costs more money. If you want to send somebody to say, "Bhai, let's go and understand what's really happening in Japan or somewhere else, let's try and figure out what they feel about India," they will, actually that's expensive. Getting 3 people to shout at each other in a studio with it's free, usme kya kharcha hai? You just pay an anchor, get 3 people to shout and you're good to go. This is the reason why television news is what it is, and this is unfortunately something that I don't see changing until you can change the entire model. So this fundamentally is the reason why many of us, whether Maya who's just walked inside, Sanjay who was there earlier, all of us who were once upon in television, we all left TV news because we said, iska kuch nahi hoga. And in the 7-8 years that we took the decision to do that, I think unfortunately matters have not really improved. If anything, they've got worse because the model does not justify this. The model is the ray of hope now. So I don't want to only come across and sound that iska kuch nahi hoga and there's no future and let's forget about foreign policy. We have to try and find answers because in this present situation, I think India is not having its voice reflected in the rest of the world, and that's a shame. It's also a problem that has to be solved. You can't be the 3rd largest economy in the world in 3 years from now, and you don't have a voice, because everyone in the rest of the world's opinions on India are only being found by watching CNN or Al Jazeera or even worse, Chinese TV or something like that, or you're reading international newspapers. Because you can't get the rest of the world to be watching Indian television news channels and saying, okay, we're going to make up our mind on India based on that. In fact, I shudder to think that that's what might actually be happening. I mean, if you consider what happens, if anybody in the rest of the world is making up their mind on India and making their views on India by watching Indian television news, the country's image goes down the drain. Because you're watching people yelling and shouting at each other, screaming at each other. You think this is a country where there's only hostility and yelling and shouting and negativity that's happening. God forbid if there are discussions on foreign policy, which have increasingly started to happen, that's even worse because you're getting foreign diplomats and foreign experts and spokespeople, including people who've studied India for decades, who are well-informed people, who have whose voice actually counts in international foreign policy. Indian television channels call them and they spend 20 minutes insulting them and shouting at them and saying, will you apologize for saying X, Y, Z? You go on social media, it's even worse because then there are Twitter trolls and others attacking you. People who are very well-intentioned towards India, if they're not actually putting up an Indian flag and saying Bharat Mata Ki Jai every day on their Twitter feeds, you're saying that they'll be attacked by Indians on social media. So you're now setting up a dynamic where the projection of India and the rest of the world is a really serious challenge. And the last part of the problem, I know I'm sort of outlining why it's such a mess, because only once you know why it's a mess is can you find a solution. The last piece of this is something which, so about 5-6 years ago, this is not a new problem. I think there's been enough realization. You were mentioning JSXP, the MIB, Ministry of Information Broadcasting, certainly the earlier secretary and even the new one, Mr. Apurva Chandra and others are very concerned about what's happening. Why is India's image so bad in the rest of the world and how do we fix it? So many of us were then called in and we did try and help in trying to find what the possible solutions are. One other part of the problem, which is somewhat self-imposed, which we did share, is we also have to be a little careful of what we are doing with the media within the country. Because if you're concerned about how the rest of the foreign media is depicting India, it will also be shaped by how India is treating the press within the country. Because there's a code. It's a biradri ki baat. If there's a perception in the media and the rest of the world that the Indian journalists and the Indian media are under threat or under attack, or the freedom of press is under threat in India, the rest of the foreign media will not say good things about the government, will not say good things about the country. And that's a natural defense mechanism, because as journalists, it's a code which the press has, that the only protection you have is that if somebody is coming after you and hitting you on the head because you're a journalist, then the rest of the world's media will come and attack you. So this is something else that has to be kept in mind and internalized, and hopefully it will be. So, what is the solution? Now, there are 2 or 3 different paths that are being, I think, you have to look at. There has been some talk, I think, about saying, let's create an international news channel, like create a channel designed for the rest of the world. And I think there are signs that some of that is happening. The organization that many of us work for once upon a time is starting to have a global sort of a footprint. Others are also looking at it. That's one possible solution, but I think to some extent, we're almost fighting the last decade's war, if you know what I mean. Because I don't know how many people are actually watching television news, not just in India, but in other parts of the world. It's not really, you can create a television news channel which say this is a global channel. You've got to then worry about how it is going to be, is it really a channel that is going to be seen as propaganda or not? Because at the end of the day, this is something that underlines everything that is important when it comes to talking about India in the rest of the world. So, if you are setting up an international channel and saying, let's get India's voice in the rest of the world through an international channel, the question of credibility is going to become all important. Because let's face it, in addition to the economic model that I spoke about earlier, a lot of what is happening in the Indian media today is being optimized for the domestic audience and also, dare I say it, for domestic politics. Where if there's criticism or you're saying, okay, there are shades of gray, or okay, there's good and there's bad, it's almost felt that you should not be doing that. So from a domestic audience point of view, Indian media, and this is to some extent true of the rest of the world, everyone has started playing to ideological echo chambers. It's not that old style school of journalism which said, we'll tell you a balanced view. ye bhi hua, ye acha hai, ye galat hai, that sort of a positioning is something that is being broken across the world. Now, if you look at it in India, what does that mean? That means that whether it's a television channel or, unfortunately, even if it's a digital channels, digital media, YouTube channels and individuals putting their view forward on YouTube, when it comes to domestic politics, so the same principle of the TRPs, which is in any case being, as I said, hijacked for various other reasons, but even when it comes to clicks and views on digital platforms now, the ability to project a balanced image is not something that is doing very well. What happens is, if you are somebody who's standing and saying, this government is great, Modi ji is the best, there is nothing wrong that is happening, you'll get a lot of clicks, you'll get a lot of views. Why? Because the people who believe that view would like to watch you, and the people who don't like that view will also watch you to criticize you and saying, I hate this person. Dono hota hai. So if you are saying this extreme, people will watch. Or you take the other extreme, where you say, kuch nahi theek ho raha hai, everything is horrible, everything is a mess, Modi ji is the worst, this government is awful, it must be demolished. Again, there's a lot of viewership for that, and there are people who watch that. Why? Because people who hold that view watch that opinion, and people who don't hold that view like to watch it and troll them and criticize them and think this person is the worst and he should be sent to prison, or she should be sent to prison, as the case might be. So what happens about the middle? Because actually the world is not black and white. The world has shades of grey. And in India, you may still be able to figure it out. Okay, this person believes this person believes this. But if you're in the rest of the world and you're trying to get some analysis of what is actually happening in India, what are you going to watch? We've already established you can't watch television news. Now you're saying come and watch digital. Now when they watch digital, they'll either have somebody saying that the country is about to collapse in the next 5 days because it's a fascist country and XYZ is happening, or you're going to say it's the best place and anybody who says a word against it is going to be, trolled. Where do you get the middle ground? So I think at some point, that is going to reflect itself now, even in the outreach measures that are being debated and discussed right now. Because obviously at the highest levels of the government, this is a matter of concern. What voice does India have? So when this talk, for example, has been on for the last 4 or 5 years, or 6 years, let's set up an international channel. The question is going to come, what is that channel going to be? Because if your desire is still to optimize for the domestic audience, and to optimize for what are voters going to say here, what are voters in Bihar going to say about this program, or voters are going to say in India, then it's not going to be a balanced channel that the rest of the world is going to watch and trust. Because at the end of the day, that trust and that credibility becomes all important. So there's an issue around being able to set up an international channel, especially one that gets funding from the government. Because, let's face it, the revenue models will not really permit, okay, there are some private players who have got very deep pockets and maybe they will be persuaded to say do it. But will they also have the ability to say, I'm going to show both sides of the story? I'm not sure whether they will. So therefore, there's going to be an issue around it. So this is really the solution. This is the debates and the discussions that are taking place at various levels. The only other solution that I think is a very real possibility that we have spent some time working on is to leverage the network of Indians across the world in the diaspora, where you set in place a certain mechanism. And at Editor G Technologies, we did build some of the technology and the IP around it, which is to enable people to create their own playlists of news stories, add their opinion, and then share them in their own network. I still believe that in the sort of a world that it's still premature for that, but within a year, 2 years, you will have a flood of information coming at you. The creation of content is not going to be the challenge. In fact, there's going to be too much content. Why? Because AI is going to do it. So, possible solution number one, you start figuring out a way of setting up a network where the content is being created by various content players, Indian content players, other content players, individuals, You will be in a situation 2 years from now where a young kid in a college auditorium, in a college auditorium or sitting, in a college dorm room or in a school dorm room for that matter, will be able to create professional quality information as well as any main media house will. So the entire monopoly that has existed till now of the media houses to say, bhai, hum aapko dikhayenge news kya hai, it's not required. You'll have the ability for people to create high quality professional content using AI. So this is going to happen within 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. It's already well on the way. The challenge is then going to become curation. Curation. How do you stitch that into a particular form factor or a format that people will be able to see? And this essentially is what I spent a lot of time working on once I left NDTV at Heritage, where my belief is, I could be wrong, but my belief is that you will have a system which is not in, I'll give an example from the music industry to try and illustrate what I think the solution will be. If you look at the music business, which is again not dissimilar to news and information, small pieces, in there what you used to have is, there used to be radio once upon a time, which is very similar to television. Radio and television are, you switch it on, you watch whatever there is, you don't like it, you switch it off or you stay in the channel. There's nothing else you can do. So that's the TV and the radio era. Then you move to digital, which is where we are right now, where you've got to go and click on something and you've got to go and find the stories. That is very similar to the cassettes and CDs. You can find the song that you want, but it's a pain. वो cassette ढूंढना पड़ता है, CD लाना पड़ता है, and you have to go searching for it. In music, we don't do any of this right now. We have the equivalent of Spotify and other such companies where AI is actually producing playlists for you and creating the music that you like, and it is playing it for you. Within a year, 2 years, I think you will be in a position where that curation will be happening through AI, through experts and others, where playlists of information will be coming. And that is one area where I think the government needs to aggressively think of how do we leverage that. So in the last 2-3 years, I have spent some time, Dr. Mule, going to multiple embassies, high commissions, whether it is in London or Singapore or Canada or the USA, and in working with embassies and high commissioners to say, these are the sort of technologies that you can use to start creating your own news channels. You don't need to have a television news channel providing information in Canada or in the UK or in the USA or in Singapore. You need to just get these playlists created, which is not that difficult to do, and share it digitally, share it locally. Get Indian networks to then go on sharing it and resharing it with their own opinions added to it. This will create a network. This is how you leverage the 30 million people in the Indian diaspora, and that is how you will control the narrative. You leapfrog a generation, leapfrog television and print in the rest of the world, and create an Indian network of information, and that is how you get your message across. It will require somebody at the highest level. So we put up this idea. Usme kya hota hai that, people change, as you know, the person who's the secretary will move or somebody else will move, and then new people come, then you have to popularize them. And then eventually it'll come down to, theek hai, tum jaake karo. Catch your flight and you do it. But this is not something which is very easy for a private individual to do. Eventually the government and some network has to do it. But it is solution number one. Solution number two, which is already happening, which many of us are trying to do, is they said, okay, another option is just start creating podcasts, start creating individual shows, like what Palki does or the India Story that I've been doing, where you find individual programs and they say, okay, this individual is trusted by the rest of the world, or this individual carries credibility. Get that person to do a news story or a news show, which is one program, and find a way of disseminating that. The second option. So there are two possible options that are being worked on right now. Neither of them is perfect, neither of them is optimal, neither of them is probably sufficient, but at least it hopefully is pointing a direction to the way this can go. But it is clearly something which we all need to collectively turn our attention to, which is why I'm very glad that you're doing a symposium like this. It has to be thought through, because India as a country has to find an answer in the next 2 to 3 years. Just as a postscript to that, if you look at even now, Operation Sindoor, this illustrates why we need to do this. If you look at Operation Sindoor and the aftermath, You won a military conflict by all accounts, and you lost it in the narrative. You lost it in the narrative because A, the television channels were shouting so loudly about it that it wasn't being believed in the rest of the world. Where is the credibility? You need the voices of credibility and the methods of credibility that you can get your message across in a manner that is believable. And as Dr. Mule was saying, you need to build those networks and relationships with enough influential people in the rest of it that they're putting the message across. What happened out here is you're having the other side managing the narrative very well, including by going directly to President Trump, offering him his Nobel Peace Prize, doing a cryptocurrency deal. So the US is suddenly saying, "Bhai, Pakistan kitna acha desh hai and India kitna kharab hai." I mean, that's a digression I don't want to get into, but they're managing that. We are either shouting at people on television channels for our own domestic audience to say, "How dare you say that a single plane was shot down?" Or then you're not being able to project your voice. So this illustrates why, as a nation, building this outreach to the rest of the world is probably the single most important strategic imperative right now. It'll eventually add as much to your national strength as 3 squadrons of Rafales. Thank you all.
We extend our heartfelt gratitude to Mr. Chandra for sharing his invaluable insights with us today. Your vision, experience, and guidance inspire us all, and we are truly honored by your presence, sir. We would now like to take a moment to acknowledge our esteemed guests who have graciously joined us today. May I request our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Dr. Vijay Veer Singh, to please felicitate our chief guest, Dr. Dhyaneshwar Mule. Now I request our Honorable Vice Chancellor to please felicitate our keynote speaker, Mr. Vikram Chandra. Now I request our Honorable Vice Chancellor to please felicitate our distinguished speaker, Dr. Arnab Chakrabarti. We are truly grateful to all our guests for their invaluable presence and contribution to the event. To formally conclude this memorable inaugural ceremony and to extend our heartfelt appreciation to all those who have contributed to its success, I now invite Dr. Pradeep Kumar, Registrar APJ Satya University, to deliver the vote of thanks.
Namaskar. It's my pride and pleasure to propose vote of thanks on the occasion of this prestigious international symposium, which is undertaken by School of SGM's Journalism and Mass Communication and Indian Council of World Affairs jointly. We are thankful to our Chancellor Ma'am, Pro-Chancellor, for their being our source of aspiration for us. We are thankful to our Honorable Vice Chancellor, sir, to give us direction as a leader and inspire us for all these initiatives at various times. We are thankful to our chief guest, Dr. Mule, our keynote speaker, Chandra sir, Chakrabarti ji. We are thankful to Dr. Mule to give us insight about his experiences being in various countries as ambassador or at having various positions. We are thankful, sir, and you have given us a good idea Now we will study Mauritius and all these countries which are our neighboring countries. Chandra sir, we are very thankful to you. You raised good issues about media and also their possible solutions. We are thankful. Chakrabarti sir, we are thankful to you. You gave us a brief about what ICW is doing. Thankful for your collaboration with ASU. We are thankful to entire SGMC team, coordinators, student volunteers who have worked day and night for successful conclusion of this or conduction of this event. We are thankful, all of you. We are thankful to everybody who behind the curtain has worked day and night for the successful conduction of this event. We are thankful to each of you. Thank you very much, and hope the deliberations held in this symposium will go a long way from the policy implication perspectives. Thanking you. Hope all the we are also thankful to our presenters who are taking part in this symposium. And though majority of the presenters are there online, but our students, our faculty will be there, and I hope our students will take full advantage of this symposium, and they will be enlightened about all what is happening in real media, what are the issues, what are the new perspectives. So hope this symposium will go a long way. Thank you very much. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, as we move towards the conclusion of this inaugural ceremony, let us now come together in unity and pride. I request everyone to please rise for the national anthem, a tribute to our nation, its values, and the spirit that binds us all together.
जनगण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मांगे गाहे तव जय गाथा जन गण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे
We look forward to continued collaboration and shared growth in the days ahead. This is Neha Thakur, your host for the day, signing off with sincere thanks to everyone for their gracious presence and participation. But I would like to request everyone to please gather for a group photograph to capture the memorable occasion. And we have arranged the lunch for our esteemed participants and organizing team. You may proceed for the lunch and enjoy the meal.